At 4:36 a.m. local time, a Venezuelan Navy patrol squadron departed Puerto Cabello under strict radio silence. 4 boats, each armed with 12.7mm heavy machine guns and Soviet-era 73mm launchers. Their orders: intercept the American warship entering Bolivarian waters. The Americans didn't know it yet, but the squadron's intelligence was already wrong. The target wasn't a lone destroyer. It was the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, a 100,000-ton floating air base with a strike group of 6 warships. By 5:21 a.m., radar operators aboard the Eisenhower picked up faint echoes coming from the south. Small, fast, uncoordinated. It didn't match commercial traffic. Bridge, combat. We have 4 surface contacts, 27 miles in closing. The carrier's captain turned. Copy, let's light them up. Within seconds, the USS Gravely and USS Mason adjusted course, forming a defensive wedge ahead of the carrier. The escort pattern tightened. The phalanx turrets rotated to standby. Every sailor on deck knew this formation meant one thing: possible hostile approach. The Venezuelan lead boat, NA-23, pushed its throttle past 40 knots. Its captain thought they were chasing an American destroyer running solo. His radar tech didn't notice the massive radar signature behind it, the carrier. At 5:48 a.m., the Venezuelan squadron broke radio silence. "You are entering Bolivarian waters. Alter course immediately." No response, just static from the carrier. 3 minutes later, the boats crossed into visual range. And that was the moment every sailor on the NA-23 realized their mistake. They weren't staring at a destroyer. They were facing a U.S. aircraft carrier backed by a fully armed strike group already locked onto their position. The Venezuelan boats hadn't stumbled into any American ship. They had sailed straight toward one of the most lethal naval formations afloat, a U.S. Navy carrier strike group. At the center, the Dwight D. Eisenhower, call sign Ike, nuclear-powered 4.5 acres of armored deck, carrying nearly 70 aircraft. To her crew, she's a floating city. To anyone reckless enough to challenge her, she's a storm from hell wrapped in steel. Flanking her were 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the Gravely and the Mason, each bristling with over 90 vertical launch cells containing everything from Tomahawk cruise missiles to Sea Sparrow interceptors. On the outer ring, the Ticonderoga-class cruiser Philippine Sea ran overwatch, tracking everything within 250 miles. Above them, 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters swept the surface, dipping sonars pinging, infrared cameras scanning for fast movers. The carrier's Combat Information Center linked everything together, radar, sonar, satellite feed, into one picture the size of an ocean. When the Venezuelan boats appeared, every ship in the group saw them at once. The system tagged them: Skunk Alpha 1 through 4, unknown surface contacts. Course, north. Speed, 42 knots. The order went out: maintain course. Do not engage unless fired upon. The US Navy doesn't blink first. They let you come close enough to realize just how big of a mistake you've made. And now, 4 Venezuelan captains were about to learn that lesson the hard way. At 5:52 a.m., the radar operator aboard the Gravely leaned forward. Contact accelerating, bearing steady, they're not changing course. That single line turned the entire CIC into a live wire. On the main screen, 4 small blips crawled across the radar display, each now just 22 miles out. These weren't smugglers. Smugglers avoid detection. These boats were charging straight in. The captain made the call. Broadcast on Maritime Emergency Channel. Unidentified Venezuelan vessels. This is a United States Navy warship. You are operating in international waters. Alter course immediately. Nothing. The Venezuelan formation split. 2 boats stayed low, hugging the waves, while 2 veered wide, forming a pincer pattern. That wasn't random navigation. That was training. Up on the Eisenhower's flight deck, crew chiefs prepared another MH-60R. Within minutes, the Seahawk was slicing through the humid Caribbean air. Visual contact, the pilot reported. 4 fast patrol craft, approximately 45 feet, painted navy gray, flying Venezuelan flags, guns mounted forward. The carrier's command center shared the video feed with every ship. Wakes carved white scars toward the U.S. formation. At 6:01 a.m., the Venezuelan lead boat locked onto radar return Echo 2. Their intel sheet said Echo 2 was a U.S. destroyer operating without a carrier escort, a perfect target for a warning run. The plan: buzz close, fire warning bursts, film the standoff, hand the footage to state media. Caracas wanted proof its Navy could push the Americans back. But their data was 2 days old. Echo 2 wasn't alone anymore. Overnight, the carrier strike group had shifted position. The radar Echo they were chasing wasn't a destroyer. It was the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, the flagship. From NA-23's bridge, the American silhouette rising over the horizon looked wrong. Too large, too flat, too tall. The radar cross-section filled the entire scope. The captain hesitated, thinking it was two ships side by side. Then aircraft elevators and tower lights gave it away. They were staring at a carrier. By now, the U.S. strike group was at full alert. The destroyers shifted positions to block the small craft. Choppers maintained overhead surveillance. Inside the Eisenhower's Combat Direction Center, every sensor locked onto the Venezuelan formation. Still committed to their demonstration, the Venezuelans fired 2 short bursts into the water, not aimed, just for show. But to a U.S. carrier on high alert, muzzle flashes are no joke. Gravely's fire control radar locked instantly. Weapon systems tracked targets. Alarms screamed inside the Venezuelan cabins, missile-locked tones they had never heard before. Within a minute, they realized the truth. They hadn't intimidated an American warship. They had threatened a nuclear-powered carrier strike group with weapons on standby. The Venezuelan commander shouted over the radio, voice shaking, cease approach, disengage." But it was already too late for calm. The American response was unfolding. 6:03 a.m. The carrier's Combat Direction Center went red. Not alarms, but a calm voice. Condition 1, weapons release authorized for self-defense. On the Gravely, sailors manned the 5-inch gun. The phalanx CIWS turret spun up, barrels whirring at 4,500 rounds per minute. Above, the Seahawk dropped to 200 feet. Then came the final trigger. The Venezuelan boat locked fire control radar onto the Gravely. "Bridge, we are painted," the Seahawk pilot said. "Copy. Maintain eyes. Do not engage unless fired upon." Inside the Eisenhower, the tactical action officer walked through the rules of engagement. Do not start the fight, but finish it fast if it starts. A tense minute passed. Then one Venezuelan boat surged forward at 45 knots toward Gravely's bow. Standby countermeasures. Chaff pods armed. Lasers warmed. One wrong burst and the sea would ignite. At 6:06 a.m., the Seahawk reported, "One vessel breaking formation, turning away, another following." Radar returns began to fade. The standoff was breaking, but slowly. 6:07 a.m. Hull number 23 suddenly swung wide toward the carrier's southern flank. Whether confusion or pride, nobody knew. But on U.S. radar, it looked like an attack run. The Mason moved between the carrier and the contact. Missile hatches opened. Seconds mattered now. Lead Venezuelan boat turning inside Mason's wake. Distance 1.5 nautical miles. "If that boat crosses 1,000 yards, engage with a warning burst," the tactical watch officer ordered. 2 green flares fired. US Navy sign for "turn away now." No response. Then the Venezuelan gunner made the mistake that almost triggered the war. He racked the charging handle on his deck gun. The Seahawk's microphone caught the metallic sound. "Gun movement confirmed," the pilot called. "Target within 900 yards. The Gravely's captain raised his hand. "Hold fire, just a second longer." At 6:08 a.m., the Venezuelan boat veered hard to port, peeling away with a plume of spray. The others followed. Contacts retreating. All units stand down weapons, maintain tracking. It had been 1 minute from disaster. By 7 a.m., the sea was empty again. But the battle wasn't over. It shifted to politics. Hours later, Venezuelan state media released a grainy video claiming they had repelled an American incursion. In Washington, the Pentagon quickly published satellite images and radar logs proving the U.S. group had been operating in international waters over 80 miles from Venezuelan territory. The Navy called it reckless brinkmanship. Caracas called it sovereign defense. Both sides held their ground. Diplomats scrambled. No shots fired, no injuries, a near miss. But sailors knew the truth. The difference between a near miss and a war can be as thin as a misunderstood radio call. or a nervous finger on a trigger. The next day, the Eisenhower strike group quietly shifted north. The Venezuelan boats returned to port in silence. Publicly, the situation was over. At sea, everyone knew it wasn't the last close call. People think warships see everything. In reality, the ocean hides mistakes better than any battlefield. At night or in low light, a destroyer and a carrier can appear nearly identical on a small radar screen. Venezuelan crews were using shore-based radar data, not live sensors, based on a static grid that didn't account for the carrier group's overnight movement. In the Caribbean, a 30-mile shift can turn routine patrol into confrontation. Modern navies rely on human judgment as much as technology. One misread echo or misheard transmission can spiral into crisis before the word fire is even spoken. Official reports later called it a routine encounter. The sailors called it something else, the closest they'd come to firing live rounds outside of wartime. Looking back, the line between standoff and catastrophe was razor thin. At sea, there is no replay button. Once you commit, you live with the outcome. So here's the question. You're on the bridge, alarms screaming, 4 fast boats racing toward your ship at 40 knots. Do you hold fire and risk getting hit, or squeeze the trigger first? Drop your answer below. I want to see how you'd call that one. Thanks for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, share it with a friend who loves naval stories, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a debrief when the next close call hits the ocean. And if you want to support the channel directly, join the fleet, loyalty badges, priority replies, and more. Just click join on our channel page. In the end, the Venezuelan Navy didn't just pick the wrong target, they picked the worst possible day to forget their map. I'll see you in the next one.